Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 580 of Constructive Criticism. I'm your host, Heezy, joined by my co-host, Mason E. Clark.
What up? I'm excited to talk about bannings and this show that all of my friends love that I've tried multiple times to love and can't get through.
Multiple times what?
I've tried multiple times to watch this show because like a bunch of people in my life at different points have all loved Avatar. And so at multiple points I've tried to go back and watch, but man, I just can't do it. I even tried skipping the part because I didn't like the first book that much. And I was like, okay, I'll just watch a recap and I'll just start the second book. Because I've heard it gets better with time. And even then I was like, man, I got the boss thing say, and I was like, that's the meme and I'm out.
Yeah, that's not how I would watch the show if you... That's interesting. We'll get into that. Mm-hmm. Before we do, let's just... Everybody's gonna... If we don't talk about this, everybody's gonna talk about it anyway. Why didn't you guys talk about this? So, we have the BNR discussion, the time of recording. We're recording on Monday. We have Vivi, Screaming Nemesis, and Prosodenic Memory Band in Standard, and Heartfire Hero Band in Pioneer. I included Pioneer because, Nathan, technically, you can pretty easily get into RCs via Pioneer on Arena, through that and stuff.
Does that qualify for the RCs? I thought that was for their program, like
it qualifies for both. This is something that I've done. Okay. Yeah. Also, there are RCs on MTGO, or RCQs on MTGO also. So, with that being said, we all knew that Vivi was getting banned. I think most people thought that Prof was getting banned, and then there was a lot of suspicion that something from Mono Red would get banned. Mason, what were your first reactions?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly was a little surprised about Profs, not from like a power level perspective, but I was kind of under the opinion they might be like, well, we're banning this like really expensive card in VV, and there should be like, there's probably going to be a Profs shell if we leave it around. And so maybe we don't like nuke players' collections. Nuke is a strong word, but you get the idea, right? Like they'll still have a deck to play. But I think it makes total sense if you think that package is good enough, you don't want basically the same deck minus VV to be showing up. You know what I mean? Like -4 Cauldrons, -4 VVs, up like 8 interactive spells or couple creatures. Like that would be a pretty bad timeline. So it made sense. And then Nemesis was another one too, where it makes sense to just like very powerful card, and you want to shake up the format. And I don't mind them taking a heavier hand. I think a lot of times we talk on the podcast about like what are they doing? What do we think? And a lot of times, sometimes I don't agree. Sometimes I agree full-heartedly. It really matters to me a lot about just like what the thought process is, right? It's a lot like Magic. It's like, well, did you make that play because you were playing around something, or just, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like to me, that matters a lot. And it seems like they're trying to be more like, hey, we heard this is a problem. We want to make sure that like going into Avatar, things are as fresh as they possibly can be. These cards probably could have reasonably got hit in a couple months, so let's just hit them now, shake things up. And especially for like Profs, you got 2 years with the cards, and you can still play it in Pioneer, which we're about to talk about anyways, right? As a format that you just informed me can get me to the RC. But I love playing Pioneer in Arena, so I'm generally for it. What about you, Spencer?
Yeah, I think that for me, like, I always knew VV was going to get banned. I think that it was really funny that people were like, nah, don't ban VV, ban Cauldron. And I was like, I just think that, like, there's not another Cauldron target that, like, we really care about. Like, we had trouble finding Cauldron targets in the VV deck. That should tell us what we need to know about Cauldron. I think that Cauldron is, like, a fine sideboard hate card, and, like, there are reasons to have it in the format. Profs and Screaming Nemesis are interesting because I hosted a deck list where I was like, I think only VV is getting banned. That is what I thought was going to happen. And every single one of them had these two cards. Not only did it have one of them, I think every single one between the 3 deck lists I posted had both. And I talked about this on Twitter today, but like Screaming Nemesis is a very good aggressive card, but it's also a very good anti-aggressive card where you just like put it into play and you're like, okay, go. They're like, oh, okay. Well, yeah. What do I do now? And so that's why you see that card out of the sideboard of like, these mid-rangey decks sometimes and things like that. I was talking with a friend of mine today, and we were playing the new format And I was like, man, this deck is really fun, but like it does suck not to have profs. Like, you go from 7 to 8 engine cards to 4 engine cards, and it changes a lot. And I think the reason to ban profs, I don't even think that they actually mentioned just how good it is with FOMO in the article, if I'm not mistaken.
They did, yeah.
Oh, they did. Okay, I think that they maybe they glossed over it. It is the reason to ban the card. It is busted. And yeah, like I feel like what they really covered was like its replacement effect, and I'm like, you could remove the replacement effect, and I still might play it with FOMO.
Yeah, I think the part that stood out to me was like, and I think was the good takeaway. So at the end, I don't know. Did you read the whole article?
I did. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So if you, because I know a lot of people just look on Twitter. There's a spot that I think is pretty interesting, especially for like game design, where Jay Dean talks about what are our lessons from this last year and sort of these 3 cards to be banned. And I think one of them, honestly, is a little obvious once you've played with profs a good bit, but is like a good takeaway. And sometimes you need to go back to the basics, like we always talk on this podcast, right? Of like, if we had realized that we were going to make creatures that draw cards that were going to be on rating good, maybe we wouldn't have landed with profs, and then FOMO compounds that problem, right? Where it's like you get double your like investment. And basically she was like, if we had realized this, like the team would not have done this. And they're basically saying like, we kind of missed on like what this incentivized to, like, in a heavy sense, and like, were we going to make good cards that draw cards on creatures, right? And I think that that's a good reminder too, that like that action probably caused ripple effects that we'll never see, right? Like that sort of thing probably reminded the team like, okay, this sort of card's doing a similar thing to profs, etc. And so I really like that section of the article, and I just want to kind of like really highlight that they were like, hey, this interaction and this sort of thing was kind of a reminder, like we need to be careful about these kinds of things and double check our bases, etc. Because they are working with so many cards that are constantly in flux, and sometimes something gets changed, and it has cascading effects. So
you made me want to look up something. Because we did a video on the Constructor Criticism YouTube channel, me and Matt Kling, about VV Cauldron when it first came out. Now, if I'm not mistaken, it did not play prof. Oh, it played 4 profs.
Yeah, the deck's always played 4 profs.
Okay, so one of the things that stood out to me in the article is like profs did the same thing. What she said is basically that profs did the same thing that Up the Beanstalk did, but it did it differently.
Yeah, proactively.
Yeah, it did it proactively, and I don't know. Like, if you just look at the Voldaren Thrill Seeker deck, like, I mean, this is 4 to 5 cards off of what we ended up with, outside of the mana base with the deck that broke the format. So, good on Paulo, the goat.
That's a Jake Beardsley deck. I'm gonna give Jake his shout out. Okay. Jake worked with Paulo over that PT, and I've heard him talk a couple times. He's like, I love Paulo, but I wish sometimes people knew that I ruined their format, not them. So I'm giving Jake help.
Well, Jake, you're invited on the podcast anytime you want, buddy.
Yeah, you come on, you talk about it, buddy. We'll get you then.
Yeah. Wink, wink. Heartfire Hero getting banned. I made a joke about this like months ago. That like they printed the coolest red aggressive card of all time in Slickshot Show Off, and then they printed Heartfire Hero. It's like, okay, well, glad we did that. Like, good luck doing that again. And it's really funny seeing people being like, oh, well, now red's not playable. It's like, red was playable before Heartfire Hero. It's like one of the top 5 decks. He was already good.
Yeah, I think it's well, one, I just think like Pioneer is like probably underexplored in general, but the red deck was really good. Like I've talked about this on the podcast a lot, where like I play a lot of Arena Pioneer in my free time, and I basically build every deck from the ground up of like, how in the world am I going to beat this red deck consistently? And to be fair, I'm a mark for someone that's going to build a deck that's going to lose to mono red, so I kind of have to do that a little anyways. But it is just like very strong, and yeah, Heartfire Hero is a big part of some of the crazier draws, but the deck can still exist, and I think like it's probably going to be pretty interesting to see how that grows and develops with time.
Yeah.
I think I would feel differently if there were more cool pump spells being played. You know what I mean? But it's like no one's really doing anything that cool with Heartfire Hero and Pioneer.
I'm a pretty big fan of Heroes Hangout, obviously, and we've seen that the decks that play Heroes Hangout don't play Heartfire Hero that are top ending challenges in Pioneer already. But I don't know, like the deck's too good. Like it's funny to me that people are like, oh, the deck had no pressure for 1 year, so like how could we ever ban anything? It's like, yeah, I had no pressure for 1 year and nobody could beat this deck, so like why
well also there was a PT, right? And like at the PT basically everyone played red.
Yeah,
those the arena PT, to be fair. But yeah, like the one time there was pressure, everyone kind of defaulted to red. And there's a lot of money on the line those tournaments, right?
Yeah.
So like I gotta have a little bit of faith there.
I just everybody's opinions about like why would they ban Heartfire? I'm like, are you just winning a lot with this card? Like clearly the mouse package is too good in Pioneer right now. So I mean, also I also like this ban, by the way. I just will say this. I really like this over Monsters Rage. I think Monsters Rage is perfect for Pioneer.
Yeah, as weird as it sounds, I think Monsters Rage is more cool and more fun than Heartfire Hero is.
Yeah.
Like by a lot.
Yeah. Heartfire Hero on my like pick 2 set review cards. Guess what? Monsters Rage would have never put it up there. Way more fun, way more interesting in like gives a single toughness. Like it does a lot of things. Heartfire Hero is like really good.
Yeah, just think about like, and I think because I know a lot of people would probably like disagree. Just think about how like you actually play with Monsters Rage and all the different things it does from both sides of the table. Like, yeah, it's frustrating sometimes it beats you, but like it's a way more dynamic card, right? Like with Heartfire Hero, it's like play it, and yeah, there's some interactive points, right? But it's like play it, pump into it. Eventually, it gets too big, right, and your opponent kind of just dies. I don't know. I like Little Mans as a card. He's fun, but I'm with you. I'm much happier with this ban than Monsters Rage. And if it turns out Monsters Rage is too good, ban it and try unbanning Heartfire here. I think the idea that like, Pioneers really only played on Arena right now, and maybe they even have data that Red's disproportionately played. That seems like a great reason to ban a card to me. It's uncommon. Hit it, whatever.
Let's go on to our main topic. It's our pick 2 set review. Mason, what is a pick 2 set review, and what is Avatar: The Last Airbender?
Yeah, so pick 2 set reviews are our way of doing a set review. Historically in the past, what a lot of shows would do is like a top 8 or a top 10 list. And there's always that kind of awkward moment, right? Where it's like number 10, and then I kind of give you a little bit of a clarifying statement on it, right? Where it's like, yeah, this is really just a card I like or whatever, and I want to put it on my list or something like that. So instead of doing that, we just have 4 categories where we kind of lay out what the category is about. That way you have an idea. So for today's set review, we're going to be doing sleepers, favorites, hopefuls, and hits. We'll kind of give you a little clarification on what each of those mean as we start it. And that way you don't have to guess like, oh, was that actually like just a card Spencer likes, or do you think it was good? And then the thing that always stuck with me with those are like the knock on, right? Like number 10, Spencer's favorite. So is number 9 like close? You know what I mean? Like there's some oddness there. And we just try to make that a little bit more clear. And it lets us talk about cards that you maybe normally wouldn't get to talk about in a set review. Because if you're looking at just power, we're like pure obvious power. They might be below other cards when there's a chance they could enable an archetype and it'd be harder to like justify putting it on an objective top 10 list.
We've already mentioned this, but you have not watched this show.
Yeah, no, well, I've tried watching the show like 4 times, I think, but I have not finished it, and I've not gone further than Ba Sing Se. Was skipping over big parts of 1.
Okay.
I've probably seen 20 episodes.
I'm going to clarify this. I have done a podcast on Need to Nerd on every season of this show and the next show.
Mm-hmm. That's Korra, right? It's the sequel show?
Legend of Korra, yeah. Which they did not include in this.
Mm-hmm.
this is one of my son's favorite shows of all time, and it might be my wife's like top 5 favorite anime of all time. So like this is very near and dear to my heart. I'm not supposed to be doing set reviews. I don't enjoy them, but I actually was gonna maybe do this one anyway, and so I'm excited. And we're gonna start with sleepers, which are cards that we think that people aren't talking about enough, and that people could maybe get to know a little bit better. Things that maybe are a little good. So for my first sleeper, Mason, we have Zugo Conflicted. This is a black, a red, or a legendary creature, human rogue. At the beginning of your first main phase, choose one that hasn't been chosen and lose 2 life. Draw a card, put a 1/1 counter on Zuko, add a red, and exile Zuko. Return him to the battlefield under an opponent's control. These cards are often better than they look, depending on the deck that you play them in. Obviously, this one goes back to your opponent, but it still comes back to you, even the other direction if the game goes really long. I think that Red Black was one of the underappreciated decks going into things. It was obviously Lizards, but I think this card on rate is just quite good, Mason.
Yeah, so like it has been interesting. It's also like a burn spell, right? Like you can actually just use the last mode first because your opponent loses. Well, the controller loses.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Which is a pretty interesting like mode for this card. Yeah, I think generally this card is pretty cool, especially if there's any sort of synergies you can tie into what's going on here, or you have a really good way to use like specifically the add R really jumps out to me, right? Like, oh, if I have like an aggressive black-red deck, and I can like really use that could be a really big swing for this sort of deck on like a pretty solid body that's quite good against a lot of removal spells. I mean, 3 toughness, yeah, it dies a torture tower, but that needs to get bargained. And if they don't have the ability to, especially on turn 2, that can be a big ask. It can stick around, and also it grows if that is a huge problem. You can play around it for the following turn. So it's a cool card.
Yeah, I think that like I saw nobody talking about this card. I think that like a huge problem that's going to happen in a lot of these Universe Beyond sets is like things are going to be legendary. And man, could you imagine like having multiple of these in play? That'd be really good. Obviously, you can't. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I think this is dope. Also, from my understanding of the story, this is like kind of a 10 out of 10 flavor win, right? Like he's a firebender who kind of like betrays his own, like seeks out knowledge, goes stronger. Seems like kind of a dub in that regard, which is pretty cool.
It is a flavor win. I will not spoil the show. He is conflicted because of Katara. I don't know. It's hard. Like, do I just spoil the show in this podcast?
I wouldn't spoil the show. I think it's fine to say a character that's like
yeah, like Katara makes him conflicted, which she hates him, and yeah. So, my next one. Listen, Mason. This is maybe my most boomer take on this episode, and I tried to limit my boomer takes, Mason. I tried really hard. Okay. So, we have Air Nomad's Legacy. This is an enchantment that when it enters, you create a clue. So it replaces itself. It's for a blue and a white. Creatures you control with flying get +1/+1. That's it. That's the whole card. This is a one-sided anthem that replaces itself.
That is so true.
It's true.
I love the way you said one side. So you were just like, I want you to know, only mine.
It's only my flyings. I don't know. Like, there is a world in which I played Magic where this would have been like one of the best cards in the set. And
yeah,
it would have been the best card in the set, even if it was double-sided. I don't know.
Yeah, I think those times are even before when you were really playing a bunch, but I
No,
agree.
that's not true. I appreciate that you think I'm that much younger, but
Yeah.
I actually think this card is pretty good. I think that the fact that it's blue white is the thing that holds it back.
Mhm.
I think if it was hybrid mana, it might actually be like really good. But we'll see.
Mm.
I think about the it wasn't spirits. What was it? It was what was the deck that we just had like 2 years ago?
Describe it a bit more to me. Obviously, as flyers,
Blue
you're talking about
blue
this.
blue white attackers. A lot of them had flying. It might have been. Was it spirits?
I think it was spirits. The spirits is the last deck I can remember that was like this. I don't know. The thing that jumps out to me about this card is that it's a lot of material, right? Like it's an enchantment and a clue, which are two very different card types, which could like randomly come up. Obviously, you want to play it more likely for the flying buff than anything. But yeah, I think it's a cool
It's
card,
actually
and
soldiers for what it's worth.
they had a bunch of flying.
They had a bunch of flying soldiers that I'm thinking of.
Okay, well,
And I think, for what it's worth, the reason that I'm going to highlight this again. Sorry, I had to do that while you were talking. I believe you can give all your allies flying pretty easily in a lot of ways in this set.
okay. So you think there's like maybe an ally standard deck, or this is like Anthem or whatever?
Yeah, I think that like it could be a one-sided Anthem on your turn,
Mm-hmm.
or a one-sided Anthem with an instant speed, give your allies flying type of stuff. I
Mm-hmm.
believe that both those cards exist, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I have no idea, to be honest. I don't remember that.
Uh,
Um,
it's I definitely know that you can give your own allies flying with there's a 1 mana lesson that does that at instant speed. But we're talking to me about Appa Steadfast Guardian.
yeah, so that's my first sleeper. Opposite Fast Guardian is 2 and a white for legendary creature Bison Ally 3/4. It has flash and flying, so Restoration Angel sort of stat line. And then when Appa enters, airbend any number of other target non-land permanents you control. Airbending is you exile them, uh, and you can play them for 2 generic mana rather than its mana cost. And whenever you cast a spell from exile, create a 1/1 white ally creature token. So things I like about Appa is it basically does like, a janky restoration angel, right? Spencer tries to Doomblade my Zuko. I'm like Appa it goes to exile. Yeah, I have to spend 2 mana, I don't get it back right away. But when this I can airbend any number of things, right? So like with your Anthem, Spencer, if I was playing this in my ally deck, because Appa makes them, I could, get rid of it and bring it back in order to make another clue if the late game. So little things like that I think are pretty cool. And then it obviously synergizes with itself that when you're playing the card, you get back, you get a white ally when the thing comes back. But also notably, it doesn't say whenever you've airbent a card, right? It says whenever you cast from exile. So cards like Heroes Hangout that you really like, light up the stage type effects that we've had historically, these sort of play from exile questing druid, they're going to net you a bunch of allies. I think that's really cool. I think that's like a potentially really powerful angle for this card. And I just think 3/4 flash flying is like pretty reasonable. And especially if there's any sort of like good enchantment-y type thing we can flicker on a control deck, that could be a really powerful angle too, where like you kind of play this as a blocker, or, eat something in combat and like get rid of your Omen of the Sea and then replay it. That kind of stuff I think is pretty awesome. So
I love this card. This almost made my like favorite, so I'm really glad that we got to talk about it. I think this card is cool, and also like the art is really cool. Where like Appa's wearing his armor and like fighting during the. I believe this is the Battle of the Black Sun. So
yeah, because he's like the thing they ride on, right? He like comes flying in to save the day a bunch.
yeah, he's the last Sky Bison.
Cool.
And you're like, I don't know what
that raised a lot of questions, but I can deduce some of them. And then all right, disclaimer, by the way, because I haven't watched this show. I'm going to do my best to pronunciate these names correctly. I might fail.
Her name is Mai.
I believe this is May. Mai? Okay.
Her name is Mai.
Mai, Scornful Striker. Legendary creature, human, noble ally. Ally, once again, is a
now I'm questioning myself, though, Mason.
I don't know. You've listened to the show. I haven't.
I've watched the show. I'm pretty sure it's... Is it May?
It's M-A-I. I'll let you do a little research on that while I talk about this card. But it's 1 black for a 2/2 with first strike. And whenever a player casts a non-creature spell, they lose 2 life. So it's just kind of like Black Eidolon of the Great Revel. That's kind of the joke here against like Storm decks and things like that.
I'm the worst. It is definitely May.
Okay, that makes sense. Anyway, so May here, Scornful Striker. Just Eidolon for like Storm decks, etc. Giving black this way to kind of punish those sort of things, I think is pretty like appealing to me. Now, it being legendary means you can't like build them up like you could with Eidolons. And sometimes on the play back in the day with a burn deck, if you play like Eidolon into Eidolon, then a card like May here would have been a big like we get out of control, right? Like they can barely cast anything. Having something like this, I think, is pretty potent, and like 2/2 first strike is just pretty good a lot of the times, especially in standard or even Pioneer. So I just thought this card it isn't like blowing doors down in my mind, but it's like totally reasonable. Totally could see myself playing this in the right environment. And I saw a lot of people just kind of shrug, and I was like, Mai deserves a little better than that.
May.
May.
Sorry, that's my fault. It's my fault. She's like one of my least favorite characters in the show, so that's why I forgot. I think this card is really strong, and it we'll go into this like in a couple of cards in this set that like do things that other cards can do, but they make them legendary and then cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine if your opponent ever had 2 of these in play, it would just end like legacy games. Like it would be horrible.
Well, it'd be like Eidolon the Great Revel.
Yeah, it'd be ridiculous. Well, it wouldn't just be that, right? Like it would be.
It's different. Yeah, like like Force of Will, this gets hit. That doesn't. This doesn't hit creatures. It is definitely pretty different, but it just reminds me of that card a lot. And I'm like, every time I play against that card, I'm always very.
I think this card reminds me of other cards that I have in this set that are like just way better than they look on rate. Mm-hmm. I will say though, you and I are anime lovers. This art is crazy good.
Yeah, this art's great. I really like it.
Yeah. Should we go into my first favorite?
Let's do it.
So favorites are cards that we believe, like, are our favorite cards. They don't have to be playable. They don't have to be, the greatest thing in the set, but they're just things that we really love from, like, a flavor perspective or from a design perspective. My first is Phoenix Airship. This is 2 black for a artifact vehicle flying. At the beginning of your end step, if you sacrifice a permanent with this turn, create a token that is a copy of this vehicle. As long as you control 8 or more permanents named Phoenix Fleet Airship, this vehicle is an artifact creature. Crew 1. So first of all, I think this card's kind of good. I think in decks that you can do this multiple times, it's kind of broken. But this is kind of the end game of the entire show. For those who don't know, where they are using the power of the comet to like destroy the world through firebenders on these airships, and it's crazy cool. It's very cool. This is one of my favorite cards in the whole set.
Yeah, I think this card also is a pretty interesting card from like design implications and like doing a flavor thing of just like a bunch of like airships coming in and like bombing and coming out there. It's like the first airship isn't an issue, but the 8th airship, that's where things get dangerous. And yeah, I think 4/4 for crew 1, flying is just pretty good. And if there's some sort of sacrificey deck, like you're talking about maybe just being good, you get a lot of these, and that can be really great. You turn your random clue token into this, well, I guess you crack your clue, draw a card, and then get another airship. That's a lot of value, and that's a lot of power too. So yeah, really like this.
Yeah, like your cat deck, like, I don't know. Is this better than other things that you're doing? I don't think it is, but it's at least worth talking about long term,
Mm-hmm.
So, I had a really hard time on this other one, Mason. As I told you, I watched the show. But I'm going to talk about Firebender Ascension. It's 1 in a red for an enchantment. When this enchantment enters, create a 2/2 soldier creature token with Firebending 1. Firebending is when it attacks, you get a red mana equal to its Firebending and during combat. So, for those who don't know. Whenever a creature you control, attacking causes a triggered ability of that creature to trigger, put a quest counter on this enchantment. Then, if it has 4 or more quest counters on it, you may copy that ability, and you may choose new targets for that copy. Okay, I have a lot of reasons for this to be my favorite card, but I want you to talk about it maybe first.
Do you mean like as a Magic? Because I assume you're talking about it from like a flavor perspective. Because
oh my gosh, there's so many reasons.
I mean, so what jumps out to me about this card is like, I know the Aang's whole thing is to like try to master the 4 elements. So I think it's cute that he puts 4 quest counters, right? That's kind of cool. And then I know that there's something about like Aang struggles with firebending or something like that. Like people have told me about this before.
Yep.
Hashtag minor spoilers, and like maybe this is the moment it happens.
Earthbending, but yes, that is true.
Okay, yeah, and so like I don't know, this is like a pretty cool card from like just hey, make a 2/2, like when you attack, kind of get your mana right away, like a knockoff Goblin Shaman, right? When it comes to Fable, yeah. Obviously you don't get it laying around like a treasure, but I think that's pretty cool. And then flickering this with other stuff has some pretty cool implications, getting that back again, but also the weird quest thing of like getting new targets is pretty exciting. But I don't have a ton of time to say. When I saw this one, I was like, there's something with the flavor I feel that's probably really speaking to you for this to be here.
It's actually not the flavor. I'm really glad that I had to go first. Okay. So Quest for the Holy Relic was the card that made me the number one. This is such a boomer thing. The number one rated constructed player in Utah. This was a card that you had. You did a quest and then you went and got an artifact out of your deck and you equipped it to whatever. So like the quest part of this reminded me of that, which was cool. The firebending thing was cool because I think that like just getting a 2/2 off of this enchantment is cool. We would have not gotten that. And then Firemancer's Ascension, which cared about getting exactly 4 copies, and then copying things was another thing that was during my time in Magic. And this card just kind of like hit all the boxes. And honestly, like, I don't even know if this card is bad. Like, I would not be surprised if like somebody figures out a way to make like this card good. Mm-hmm. I think this card is sick. So
that's dope. It's cool that it hit in all those different ways that are unique to you and kind of an experience I guess probably a lot of people actually have with like Holy Relic and Ascension. It's cool how these cards can like tell that story through time.
Yeah, your next one is actually like a really important part of the Avatar lore. So why don't you go over Serpent of the Past?
Yeah, so my first one is Serpent of the Past. It's 5 blue for a creature serpent, 6/5, and it has if there are 3 or more lesson cards in your graveyard, you may cast the spell as though it had flash. And then this spell costs 1 less to cast for each non-creature, non-land card in your graveyard. So I mean, it looks a lot like a bunch of cards we've had a bunch of times, right? Like that second line of text, big blue creature, 6-ish power, whatever. Tolarian, Academy Terror or whatever. Tolarian Terror, excuse me. That card's been around. I just think those are kind of cool. And I think this lesson line is a pretty interesting one too to me of like, historically, you always think about lessons only being with learn cards, and there are no learn cards in this set. And so this is kind of a cool thing of like, well, maybe you want to play more lessons, and if you're playing like an older format or with a commander deck, maybe you want to, have even more in your deck and not just get them off learning because your Serpent of the Past going to flash, which is also a very powerful tagline on this card in those older formats. Like if you can get enough lessons that you want to actually put in your deck, which with time you might. We're going back to Strixhaven pretty here soon, so I imagine there'll be some lesson learn cards there. This card could actually end up being like a 6/5 flash for like blue, maybe one blue. That's a really great deal. So I just thought it was kind of cool from like a design perspective, and also just like a nice twist on like a classic card.
I will say this. I didn't know about this card today. And I played some games with Tolarian Terror. There are lesson cards that I wanted in my deck that I did not play, that had I known about this card, maybe I would have tried a different version of the deck to play this, Mason. That I did go undefeated with, and that it was not close. So maybe we'll try this. For what it's
I also
worth,
really like its art, by the way. I don't know if you noticed its art. It's very silly looking.
Its art is great. The episode is also great. So,
all right, and then the other one is the Fire Nation's Palace. When it comes to my favorite, this land, it's a land. Excuse me. And this land enters tapped unless you control a basic land. It has tap, make a red mana, and then has 1 in a red. Tap target creature you control gains fire bending 4 until end of turn. That's R. So make 4 mana. Whoa, you go up 2. It's kind of like an ancient tomb type thing in standard. And I mean, it reads very powerfully, but what I really like about it is it really incentivizes you to be kind of getting into combat, and, incentivizes you, right, to sort of be the one trying to end the game. And there's a little bit of counterplay too. And I just thought this was a really cool design to like, oh, you think we can't put, lands that make a bunch of extra mana in standard? Yes, we can, and it can be colored mana. I thought that was kind of a cool little, I don't know if that's how this card got made, but it's kind of, one of those things where it's like sometimes people say you can't do something, so you just want to prove them wrong, and I think this card does that.
Dude, this card's so cool. The other reason I really love it, the art on this card, sorry, I'm gonna total nerd out, Mason. The art on this card has the Fire Nation symbol rather than the fire art from Magic. So like if you look at the card, the 3
instead of a mountain, it's the little sigil.
It's the Fire Nation symbol. Listen. You can speak better this than I can because I haven't worked with wizards, but like I believe that they have not made fire bending useless. Like I have a hard time believing that fire bending is just nonsense because it goes through combat and blah 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 blah.
I guess to make that clear, because we didn't really mention that, the mana only lasts until end of combat on all the fire bending cards we talked about. So it's not like in some of the effects they make it where it like carries to the end of turn that you have to use this in the combat step. But continue.
Yeah, I just think that like I think that it will happen in some ways. And and that like this will be a 1 of or a 2 of or whatever. I believe in wizards to like make not have the most powerful nation not be relevant,
Yeah, and I mean I think like to me there's a bunch of like, so casting instance is obviously like the easy mode on this card, right? Like I'm gonna lightning strike here and cast pump spells. Obviously, if you're using this card, you're using 3 mana to go up to 4, so you're jumping up 1, right? So you probably want to use that extra 1. But I mean, there's plenty of activate ability type stuff, even just clues, right? Yeah. You had some card that made a lot of clues. Well, this is 3 mana to crack 2 clues. I'm not saying it's broken, but there's definitely like things you could do with this. I think that's why it's also one of the more fun cards, right? It really makes you think in a way of like, okay, we've had double lands in the past. This one asks a lot of me, but in standard gives me a lot. What can I do with that? And I don't know, that's exciting to me.
Mason, what's our next card? It's you tagged me on it, Yeoman tagged me on it, 32 other people messaged me about it. No, not really, but What's our next card? We have our favorites. Or our hopefuls.
So yeah,
hopefuls.
Yeah,
sorry.
our hopefuls are next. Yeah. So our hopefuls are cards that we kind of hope make it in there. You're not exactly sure if this card's gonna, be topping the charts, but you're kind of wanting it to land, I would say. So
yeah. So our first one is mine, but I want you to say it. Like, what is obviously mine, Mason?
Yeah, so Shared Roots. It's one a green sorcery lesson. Search your library for a basic land, put on the battlefield, tap, then shuffle.
Why would I care about this? This is clearly not good in standard.
Well, as you brought up today with your quest of the Holy Relic, you're a boomer, and it's overgrowth. It's rampant growth. It's like
that's a good reason. That's a good reason. I really tried to go get basic forests to work.
Mm-hmm.
The mana was really bad.
Mm-hmm.
Like really bad. You had to play like a 9+ forests plus everything else you did between things. I'm hopeful that this fixes stuff, but I'm not convinced that like rampant growth changes like anything. I think we need like wild growth hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's all about the payoffs, right? It's like, what are you doing with the 4 mana? And there currently just isn't anything worth like getting to that turn earlier or two. Like all the cheap cards are so strong. And we've had cards like Green Overlord, which are like in this space, obviously 1 mana more.
It's very good. Very good. Won a Pro Tour.
Yeah. And, a lot of that had to do with like, it is a powerful effect. It is very strong, but also it was being abused with Zur, right? So like, what is this being abused with, right? Like, to use like a classic example, right? Like, I guess I actually can't think of a good. It's like here's a good example. If you could just play a Planeswalker that was worth playing a turn sooner, that could like defend itself and take over the game, something like this might be playable. But that's the hard part with me at this card, and that's part of the fun, right?
If this was Farseek, would it be good?
Well, I mean, yeah, we got the Shocklands coming. For Farseek, for those who don't know, is like
we have the Shocklands in standard. This card, if this card was Farseek,
well, we have half of them. Yeah.
Does it matter? If it was,
well, no, I mean, it kind of like having more options would be good, right? Like then you have like 3-4 color decks or whatever. Either way, I was going to say Farseek's like this, but you can search for with a basic land type, so it gets the shocks and the surveils. Surveils, especially with this, would probably be really good. Because it's coming in tapped anyways. But either way, like I do think, to me, it's more about like what's the payoff going to be, and that's the part I need to kind of solve. Right. I think the lesson tag is cool. And this is one of the cool things about this set going into Strixhaven is what cool learn cards will we get? What cheap learn cards will we have that maybe I can, if I have something that's like, let's say bounce target creature, or, do some small little thing like Lay of the Land, and then I can go grab this. That could be really cool. And that could be like a really potent, way to always have your ramp or have it more consistently, right? If there's a good 1 mana learn card, then you could have 7 of these in your main deck, and then you're always ramping.
Yeah, I got a lot of messages about the 1 mana make a lander card that I didn't include in our set review because I didn't think it was good enough.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even remember the name of the card, Mason. I don't care, but people were like, Spencer, why didn't you talk about this? I'm like, because it's not good. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure that Shared Roots is good enough without support. Mm-hmm. However, I'm going to play so much Shared Roots, Mason. I'm going to do it so much.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
And you know me. I'm gonna game.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's so hopeful, right? Like I hope that like whatever I come up with matters. So
mm-hmm.
The Lion Turtle is my next one. It is a legendary cat turtle. Perfect. That's a perfect tagline, right? Like who doesn't want a cat turtle? Vigilance Reach, when it enters, you gain 3 life. It can't attack or block unless there are 3 or more lesson cards in your graveyard. Add 1 mana of any color, tap is its activated ability, and it is a 3/6.
Mm-hmm.
I have thoughts about what our cards could be to make this card good.
Mm-hmm.
But you said this earlier that there are cards that care about lessons, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is the one that I hope works out because it is a ramp card that slows down the game, that gives you additional things, that does all those things. So
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, I think the way I kind of look at this card is like, did I play it on 3 as like my, ramp spell, whatever? I'm happy with the stabilization. Maybe I flicker it, right? And then later in the game, it's a 3/6 that maybe helps take over the game.
yeah,
It's cool.
I think that's a little bit better than that. I think this card is like enough that you want to play multiple colors for your rampant growth. I think that they're asking you to do that. So I guess I'm caring about those cards together a little bit too much.
Yeah, like so, like a lot of your things come like rampant growth, like is one of the lessons you're gonna like have in your deck.
Yeah, how
The
many?
lion turtle.
I guess the question is how many do you have to have, right? Like how many lessons will
Have 3 in the graveyard in a timely way.
well, what is timely? It has
I would say like turn 5.
It has vigilance.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying turn 5 though?
Yeah, that would be my guess of like if this card's on by turn 5, assuming that I want to be doing like all this sort of stuff, like there's enough good lessons and whatnot. I think that's a pretty reasonable like turn 5 it's consistent, turn 7 I can count on it, that or like turn 7's like a reasonable kind of fail case, but it's like still happening.
Nice. Okay.
That would be my guess, like in a form
I have no idea. I saw this card and I was like, yo, this is dope with the other card. I got to figure out the rest of the stuff. So should we talk about Waterbending Scroll?
Yeah, so my first hopeful is Waterbending Scroll. It's 1 in a blue for an artifact. 6, tap, draw a card. This ability costs 1 less to activate for each island you control. So this card is one that I've seen a lot of talk about, and I think it's because the dream on this card is so appealing to people, right? Like, you get 6 land, Spencer, in your control deck that wants to make all 6 land drops, and it's just tap, draw a card. And it's like, ooh, shivers down the spine. And, that is sort of like the dream of this card. To me, that's unlikely to probably be a real thing that happens a ton right away, just with how things have been, but I would love it to be wrong. It's just I like the idea of like having a format where having a single like going up a card on repeat, even maybe for a small premium, is something you want to be doing and as like a viable thing. It hasn't been for like kind of a long time now. The one thing I will say too that keeps surprising me is people keep I think maybe misreading the card, thinking it's saying basic island. It just says island. So your surveils and shocks all enable this. And so this can be your like card advantage engine in like a 3 colory, Esper control deck. I think is the one I hear a lot, where like just got control. But it's competing with cards like Stock Up, like Consult the Star Charts. I think Consult the Star Charts is like so much better than this card. It's like not even close. So I don't know. It's a tough world for Waterbending Scroll, but it's something that I want to be good.
I had somebody message me about this card that was a previous coaching student, and they were like, why wouldn't I just play Flow of Knowledge? And I was like, well, Flow of Knowledge isn't legal anymore. And they're like, wait, what? I was like, yeah. So like, you don't just get to play Flow of Knowledge anymore. I think that if you could, there would be Flow of Knowledge decks in Standard right now, but that's not legal. And they didn't realize that. I think this card is... I don't see it. I'm glad that you're hopeful on it, for what it's worth. Like, it makes me want this card to be good, Mason. Like legitimately, as somebody that loves these type of decks, this would make me happy. I would be really surprised if like this ever got to like 2-tap, and that you'd be happy with it.
Yeah, its competition is just so hard, right? Like Stock Up and Star Charge are just so good. Before you get to
Star Charge is the one that like when I was building a deck with similar cards, I was like, Star Charge is like crazy good. It's like draw 2, get the best 7 cards in my deck. Like, let's go. That's really hard competition. And that doesn't mean that this can't be like a good cyber card in the mirror or something. I don't know, but I think it's pretty high task.
Yeah, I think the other thing too is that doesn't get talked about enough. And so this last RCQ season, I've owned blue-white control, so I've played blue-white control at every RCQ I've played, which I've either scooped the finals or won all of them that I played this season. And I played against a lot of. I mean, my deck's really bad. Blue-white control is not good in standard. I can't tell you how many times I consult the start charts on 2 or 3 lands just to like get a land drop, you know. And like the fact that this card's like spend 2 mana, do nothing for a turn cycle, do nothing again, and hope that you don't do anything in the format that like people typically spend mana and design wants them to spend mana. That's the thing, right? Is like there's so many good ways to use your mana that this card, it needs to be so cheap and the game needs to go so long. I mean, it just competes against so many other cards. So I would like a format like that. It's been a long time since we had one, and that's why I made my hopefuls. This next one, Spencer, was the hardest one in the set review for me because I think you could say this is maybe my favorite card in the set. It's kind of a masterpiece in some ways. So this is Soka's Haiku. It's 3 blue, instant lesson. Counter target spell, draw a card, then mill 3 cards, untap target land. So it's a Haiku. That's the the kind of the joke behind it, right? Like it's with text box is a Haiku, which is cool.
Yes, it is.
And like I think that's great. Like making that happen is like a really cool thing. And probably wasn't even the intention early on, and then probably ended up in a spot where it's like we can make this work that way. And I think that's really cute and clever.
Oh, it definitely was the intention.
Well, yeah. What I'm saying is like they maybe even had a card like this, and then
and then they changed it. Okay.
Yeah. Or maybe the prompt might even been, can we make a Haiku spell, right? Like,
yeah.
I don't know how prominent this scene is in the show, but the idea of basically, once again, a design prompt like this, I think is really cute, really clever. And I think the card is a little overcosted to really see play. But, if you're going to play a lesson deck, like we talked about, or lessons are going to tie into things, this is pretty reasonable. And like, once again, with us going to Strixhaven in, I think, the next year or so, and assumingly we have learn cards there, this lesson is one that I kind of have my eye on, because if you have some good interactive, learn card, and then you grab this is pretty powerful if you're able to set up a board and you don't have to dedicate a slot in your main deck to just, get a counter spell. Maybe you have some graveyard synergies, that can be pretty impactful. So I don't know, this was hard for me because I'm hopeful that something like this is playable. You'll notice once again, it's a 5 mana counter spell, very different than what we've been doing. But I thought that was cool combined with like the flavor text box situation. So
I like that this thing has multiple, like so many modes. Like you get a draw card and the mill 3. That's already 2 modes. You get a counter spell. That's already a mode. Then you get an untap a land. Like it does a lot of things. And it's like that is what Sokka believes a Haiku is. He believes it's a lot of things, and I don't know. I could see if you had watched the show, it could have been your favorite card.
Yeah, that's cool.
So,
you ready to do hits? These are cards that we think are going to land in a constructed format of some sort.
Yeah, I'll go first. I have Zao the Moonslayer. This is 1 and a red for a human soldier as menace. Non-basics enter tapped. 7, put a Conqueror counter on Zao. As long as Zao has a Conqueror counter on him, non-basics are mountains. That's it. I don't know why I said anything else. This card seems crazy good to me. We paid more for half of this effect in Thalia, and then also pay less for this effect in other effects. I think this card is the perfect middle, and I would be interested to see where it ends up in Magic. And I think it's a hit. I think that somebody's going to make this really annoying for somebody.
Yeah, it seems like a pretty reasonable sideboard option at worst against like multicolor decks, right? And then in eternal formats, where like you're basically playing all non-basics, forcing your opponent to play tapped is pretty huge. And then in the eternal formats might be a little hard to turn this into a blood moon, but it can become a blood moon, which I think is a pretty cool like kicker on a card.
Yep. And also 2 mana for a 2/2 is just like
that's with menace,
yeah, it's kind of the rate that you would want this to be. I had a really hard time with this one, Mason. There were multiple cards. We're recording right now. I have Iris Demonstration being the other hit that I have. It is 1 in a red for a sorcery lesson. Choose one. Iris Demonstration deals 1 damage to each creature your opponent controls, or Iris Demonstration deals 4 damage to target creature. This card has just seen play on both sides. It's also a lesson.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little
bullish.
I think this card is really good.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it might end up just being a sideboard card, but it's pretty strong.
I have to say, objectively, calling the lesson maybe just a sideboard card is very funny. If that was
that was not my intent, but that is funny.
That would have been an all-time. If I were to have stolen the credit, that would have been so unreal funny. No, I mean, I do think it is something that's like, yeah, it's a multifaceted sideboard card, right? Like I think you are kind of right in that. Like maybe it does end up being a one of in main decks if the format looks.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. I think that it will end up being that, but.
Yeah, and I think that's important to call out too. That like sometimes when people think about hits, they think of like the VVs of the world, right? But like often sideboard cards are really important hits and things to focus on. So having one sideboard card one spot take up, okay, I have to go wide decks.
Yeah, maybe it's for, like, 3 slots.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, against like blue black midrange, right? It kills Preacher or kills like bats plus Spyglass Sirens and stuff. Like in and of itself, that seems like a pretty reasonable one-up to side in.
Yeah.
So I know that it seems like a totally good card to me. That once again would not surprise me to have like 1 or 2 in my main deck at certain times, and definitely a card to look at for my sideboard.
All right, let's bear people under the sand with your first one.
Yeah. So, all right, here we go. Wan Shi Tong, Librarian, is X blue for a legendary creature, Bird Spirit, 1/1. It has Flash, Flying, and Vigilance. And when Wan Shi Tong enters, put X +1/+1 counters on him, then draw half X cards, rounded down. Whenever your opponent searches their library, put a +1/+1 counter on Wan Shi Tong and draw a card. So my thoughts for this card are mostly in the modern format. I've heard people talk about this with standard. Hydroid Crystal was a card I was very, very high on when it first came out, and it kind of reminds me a bit of that. Different card in a lot of ways, but I can see where people are coming with on standard. To me, modern has this very unique deck in the blue-green Birthing Ritual deck. And that deck kind of lacks good ways to close the door outside of Oculus, and also kind of lacks having like another pretty good 2-drop. And this card kind of stands out to me in that regard. And also maybe a card for some sort of just blue X interactive deck where your opponent goes to fetch, you flash this in, you draw a card and have a 2/2. That's pretty great. I've seen a lot of people talk about this card like it's the second coming of Quantum Riddler. I'm nowhere that high on this. And you'll notice I haven't even mentioned this weird like X part of the card. I'm playing this thing as a 2/2, as a 2 mana 1/1 a lot of the time that's going to grow to a 2/2 immediately. But it does have the kind of free roll in my opinion of if this is late game and you draw this, yeah, maybe you tap 4 mana, and draw a card, something like that. That's pretty reasonable to me. But I'm really looking at kind of Flash, Flying, Vigilance, bottom text, and it's blue. Those are the parts of the card I really care about.
I think this is my favorite fun of that I was going to take into my hits that I knew you were going to take, so I didn't take it.
Sure, yeah. I mean, Triple Tip sucks, so this card's got to be better than
that. I mean, I agree with that, but people are going to be mad. I think that this card is like kind of crazy interesting in older formats with fetch lands, and like
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's easy to like understate that like blue flash in different formats is like not that hard to hit. To like they crack a fetch line, you just respond and get a card.
Mm-hmm. A card in the body.
Yeah,
And
like a 2/2 at that point, and then
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say like it gets out of control, right?
Yeah,
Like if you don't answer it right away, you have to answer this before you fetch. And you might not have a good answer for like your next one. So you might just have to fetch because you play so many fetch lands.
Yeah, I was gonna actually have both of your hits, and I knew that both of your hits, so I wanted to have more cards because I knew there were only two of us. But I think this card is crazy.
Yeah, this card's quite nice, and maybe this sees play in standard. So I kind of, if you follow me on Twitter, I kind of dunked on Ollie on Trazi because Ollie tweeted about like card that's unplayable in Legacy that has like the same rider text or whatever, and I compared this to kind of like Murktide, Regent, and Tombstalker. And if you looked, Ollie kind of commented, it's like, okay, nice dunk, but do you think it's actually like incredibly amazing? And I think it's good. Like I think it's a really good card. I don't think some people talk to me like it's the best card in the set by a country mile, and maybe it will be. I could totally believe that in Legacy too. I mean, this thing with Days is caramba, I'll wasteland you. You're under the 8 ball now. Anyways, we're behind the 8 ball. If there's anything else you want to say about it, I'll go to our last card here.
Yeah, go to your last one.
Badger Mole Cub, 1 in the green for a Badger Mole 2/2. When this creature enters, it Earthbends 1. Earthbending as target land you control becomes a 0/0 creature with haste. It is still a land, and you put a +1/+1 counter on it. When it dies, or is exiled, return to the battlefield tapped. That last part, very big. I think a lot of people missed that the first time around. And then whenever you tap a creature for mana, add an additional green. That's the sort of other text here on Badger Mole Cub. So for Llanowar Elf, for example, let's say, you play Elf on 1, and then you use your mana to tap this, and then you tap your Elf, you get 2 more mana. This thing just jumps you ahead, and it Earthbends, so like your land becomes a creature, which then means that no matter what, it's going to help you out. So let's even say, I go Llanowar Elf, and Spencer's like, gotcha, torch the tower. And I go Badger Mole Cub, make this thing there. I'm now sort of still set up to be on 4 mana with a land drop on the next turn. So just really, really powerful.
Can we talk about how much more powerful it is if you don't have that? Because, like, if you go turn 1 Llanowar Elf, then you go turn 2 this, then you go, okay, tap Llanowar Elf, Badger Mole Cub. What are you at then, Mason?
Oh, like a second Badger Mole Cub?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, exponentially. Well, I guess not exponential, but like, then those lands are making 3 mana, right? And like you're getting out of control really quickly.
So is the Llanowar Elf.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Llanowar Elf is making 3 as well. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I think this card's going to lead to some like really fast, really good draws. I think this is like a card that Elf decks and decks like that are going to be very interested for basically a very, very, very long time. And I think this card's just really appealing to me, and like makes me long for the Legacy Elf days, and modern elves even. Like you can just dump your hand so quickly. But standard too, like you're saying, Llanowar Elf, all that kind of stuff. I'm big on Badger Mole Cub. I think just too like it itself turning your land into a 1/1 that then you can sort of use for 2 mana on the next turn is super important. And the clause that when it's died or exiled, return to the battlefield tapped means that they could like kill your land in the upkeep to kind of put you off the mana for a turn, but you're not down the land, right? And I think when you first read it, if you miss the part that it dies or exiled, so like torch the tower doesn't stop this thing from getting your land back, you always get it. That's super awesome. That's we're not even assuming you have any weird synergies with like surveil lands being targeted here or anything of that nature. So
yeah, I'm really glad there's not like a green deck in Pioneer that cares about my elves tapping for mana, that cares about like my lands being good. I'm really glad.
Yeah, that'd be weird.
There would be no deck that would possibly care about that.
Yeah, I wonder how good this would be in Mono Green Devotion. Like you're talking about. I hadn't really thought about it because I mean, I play Mono Green on Arena sometimes because I love it, but like I've sort of been playing the same deck for 2 years. And I don't change any cards, so I haven't really thought about adding. But like, yeah, this seems like a great include there too.
Yeah, they have to kill this. You still have a land but I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Don't forget to check out our sponsors at Mana Traders. Use the code CCMG9 right now. It helps us out. It really, really does. Use the code. Check out untap.gg and check out the swag store to help us out. Always improving is the point of the show. We're not going to do it this week. When we do these set reviews, when we do these long episodes, we don't do them. But we want to just say that, like, every week we try to be getting better every week. And when we do these set reviews, we're trying to do better. So if you have anything you want to say, let us know. And then if you have any Patreon questions, join the Patreon at patreon.com/ccmg. Become a patron of $5 more. Get access to the Patreon Discord, where you get access to the question of the week and much, much more. Join the conversation through the public Discord, the Patreon Discord, and the YouTube comments, as well as on CCMG on Twitter. Mason, if people want to find you for coaching, where can they do so?
You can find me on social media at Mason E. Clark when it comes to Twitter. You can reach out to me for coaching, like Spencer said, if you want via that Twitter DMs, or email masoneclark@gmail.com and put coaching in the description. Spencer, if someone wants to find you, where can they go?
Find me at Spencer13H on Blue Sky. He's a game on Twitter. You can find our boy Abe, who we missed this week, at More Nothings. You can find him at morenothings.com. Leave coaching in the description if you want coaching. You can find him everywhere at More Nothings. Mason, thank you so much for doing this episode with me. I had so much fun. If you had one thing to say to people about the future of Magic and Standard, what would it be?
Better get it right.
Let's go!